She sat quietly in the middle of the gym. Worn jacket, simple jeans. The other mothers didn't even notice her. When the martial arts instructor called her up for a demonstration, everyone laughed. "I just worked in military offices," she whispered. Then the instructor attacked. 3 seconds later, he was face down on the mat, arm locked behind him. The entire room froze. A retired officer in the back row stood and saluted her. That's when everyone understood. This woman was no ordinary mom. Welcome to Silent Legends. Before we continue, tell me in the comments from which city in the world are you watching this video today. And if stories like this deserve to be heard, hit the subscribe button and help us bring forgotten heroes back into the light. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead in Bayside Middle School's gymnasium as parents filed in for martial arts demonstration day. Bleachers squeaked under shifting weight while students in crisp white uniforms lined up on blue mats at the center of the room. Hargrove sat alone on the highest bleacher, one leg crossed over the other, her posture straight despite her attempt to blend in. Her weathered olive jacket and simple jeans were unremarkable. Her dark hair pulled back in a practical style that hadn't changed much since her son Griffin was born 12 years ago. Griffin stood at the end of the second row on the mat, tugging nervously at his white belt. His eyes kept darting toward his mother, then quickly away, as if her mere presence made him anxious. First time at one of these demonstrations? A woman with an eager smile slid onto the bench beside Ren, extending her hand. "I'm Azra Kazdagi, Lena's mom. You're Griffin's mother, right?" Ren nodded, offering a polite but brief handshake. Hargrove. "Master Thorn is amazing," Azra continued, undeterred by Ren's economy of words. "Trained celebrities in Los Angeles before moving here. Griffin mentioned you were in the military." "My brother was Army too, Finance Division." "I served, yes," Ren's tone offered no invitation for follow-up questions. "Clerical work? Administration?" Azra persisted. Ren simply nodded, her attention focused on the entrance where Master Thorn now appeared. The instructor entered with theatrical flair, bowing deeply to appreciative applause from the parents. Tall and lean with an exaggerated confident stride, he commanded attention in his black uniform and belt. "Louder!" Thorn called as the children performed katas with accompanying kiais. "An attacker should fear your voice as much as your hands." Griffin's shouts were noticeably quieter than the others. His movements were precise but lacked the aggressive energy Thorn seemed to favor. Each time he completed a sequence, his eyes would flick toward his mother, checking for her reaction. Ren's face remained impassive, but her eyes softened whenever they met Griffin's. "Today," Thorn announced after the basic demonstrations concluded, "we'll show parents what real self-defense looks like in practical scenarios." He scanned the audience with practiced charisma. "But first, I'd like to know, do we have any parents with martial arts or military experience who might help demonstrate?" Before Ren could sink further into her seat, Azra's hand shot up. She was military. Azra pointed directly at Ren. Griffin froze on the mat, his face draining of color. Master Thorn's smile widened as he zeroed in on Ren. "Perfect. Would you mind helping with our demonstration? Always good to show the students what real-world situations might look like." The students began whispering among themselves. "That's Griffin's mom. My dad says she just did paperwork in the military. She doesn't look like she could fight." Griffin stared at the floor, shoulders hunched with embarrassment. "I'd rather not," Ren said quietly but firmly. Thorn's smile tightened. "It's just a simple demonstration. Nothing too physical." He gestured toward the mat. "We're showing these kids that size and strength don't matter with proper technique. Wouldn't you agree that's an important lesson?" Ren looked at Griffin, noting his discomfort. After a moment's hesitation, she stood and walked toward the mat, her movements economical, nothing wasted. As she stepped onto the mat, something subtle shifted in her demeanor, almost imperceptible to most, but present nonetheless. Master Thorn beamed as Ren took her position. Parents reached for their phones, eager to record what promised to be an entertaining demonstration. Griffin, however, looked as if he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. Even someone with basic military training, Thorn addressed the class while circling Ren, would approach an attacker incorrectly without proper martial arts training. He demonstrated an exaggerated stance, arms positioned for maximum theatrical effect rather than practical defense. "I'll attack slowly with this practice knife," he explained, producing a blue rubber training blade from his pocket, "and you try your best to defend yourself." He looked at Ren with a condescending smile. "Don't worry, I'll be gentle." Ren stood motionless in the center of the mat, hands loose at her sides, expression neutral. Nothing about her suggested preparation or concern. As phones recorded and children watched, certain details might have been noticed by a more observant viewer. A small, precise scar at Ren's temple, partially covered by her hair. The way she positioned her feet, shoulder-width apart, weight distributed evenly, ready to move in any direction. Her eyes methodically scanning the room, noting exits, positions of people, potential obstacles. "Ready?" Thorn asked, adopting his stance. Ren gave a single nod. "Remember, folks," Thorn addressed the audience, "I'm demonstrating how untrained individuals typically respond to attacks, and then I'll show the proper technique." He lunged forward with the practice knife, noticeably faster than demonstration speed, clearly intending to make Ren look foolish by catching her off guard. What happened next occurred so quickly that many would later need to re-watch their videos to fully understand the sequence. Ren's right hand intercepted Thorn's wrist with surgical precision. There was no wasted movement, no telegraphing of her intention. Her grip found the precise pressure point between tendons as she subtly shifted her weight, redirecting his forward momentum rather than opposing it directly. The practice knife clattered across the floor as Thorn's arm was guided in an arc that used his own force against him. Before anyone could process what was happening, the instructor found himself face down on the mat, arm hyperextended behind him, completely immobilized by Ren's seemingly effortless control. Ren's expression remained unchanged. Calm. Almost bored. Complete silence fell over the gymnasium. Not a single child whispered. Not a parent spoke. After maintaining the hold for 2 seconds, just long enough to demonstrate complete control, Ren released Thorn with professional courtesy and stepped back, straightening her jacket as if she'd done nothing more strenuous than check her watch. From the back of the gym, an older man with military posture slowly stood, staring at Ren with dawning recognition. He had come to watch his granddaughter, but now found himself transfixed by the woman on the mat. "Valor Team Alpha," he whispered to himself, the color draining from his face. Thorn rose slowly from the mat, rubbing his wrist, his performance persona completely shattered as he stared at Ren with new understanding. "Mom!" Griffin's voice broke the silence, a mixture of confusion and awe. The retired officer approached the mat, stopping at a respectful distance from Ren. His bearing had completely changed. "Lieutenant Commander Hargrove?" he asked quietly. "Basra, 2013. Ren gave an almost imperceptible nod, her eyes momentarily showing recognition. Without hesitation, the officer stood at attention and offered a solemn, formal salute. "Sir," Ren responded quietly, returning the salute with perfect form. The gymnasium remained silent as parents and students tried to process what they were witnessing. The formal military exchange between the retired officer and Griffin's mother, whom many had barely noticed before today, created a tension that was almost tangible. "At ease," the officer said softly before turning to the stunned instructor. "You just attempted to demonstrate combat techniques to one of the most decorated special operators in naval history." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Griffin stared at his mother as if seeing her for the first time. The officer addressed the silent room. Lieutenant Commander Hargrove led extraction missions that saved over 30 hostages across 3 continents. Her unit's operations remain classified, but Commandant Blackwood once told me she was the finest tactician he'd ever encountered. Thorn's face flushed with embarrassment and dawning respect. He approached Ren with genuine humility. "I apologize for my disrespect, Commander. I had no idea. He hesitated, then continued, would you consider showing the students a proper technique? Something real? Wren looked at Griffin, who had moved closer to the mat. The boy's earlier embarrassment had transformed into something like wonder. He nodded enthusiastically. Just one, Wren agreed quietly. She motioned for Thorn to attack again, this time with full speed and force. When he did, she demonstrated a simple, efficient defensive move, stripped of all theatrics but devastatingly effective. Each element was precisely controlled. The physics of leverage and momentum used to maximum advantage. Notice the economy of movement, she explained in a clear, confident voice that commanded attention in a way Thorn's theatrical style never could. You don't need strength or speed if your technique is sound and your timing is right. The students watched in awe as she broke down each component, explaining the practical applications and limitations. Phones recorded everything as parents stood for a better view. After the demonstration concluded, Thorn bowed deeply to Wren with genuine respect. The students followed suit. Thank you, Commander Hargrove, he said. It's been an honor. As the demonstration day ended, Griffin walked beside his mother toward their car in the school parking lot, 1,000 questions in his eyes. Why didn't you ever tell me? He finally asked. Wren unlocked the car door before answering. I wanted you to know me as Mom first. Not for what I used to do. But you're a hero. Wren stopped, placing her hands on Griffin's shoulders. The real heroes are the ones who never came home, Griffin. I just did my job. Griffin shook his head. All this time, I thought you just worked at a desk or something in the military. The kids at school, they always talk about their parents' jobs, and I never had anything cool to say about you. And now? Wren asked. Now I know why you never talked about it. You didn't need to. Griffin looked up at her with new understanding. You're like one of those people in movies who never brags because they're the real deal. Wren smiled, a rare, full smile that transformed her face. Just remember, Griffin, true strength never needs to announce itself. It simply is. As they drove away, Master Thorn watched them from the gymnasium door, humility having replaced his earlier arrogance. In the parking lot, the retired officer made a phone call. Blackwood, it's Merrick. You're not going to believe who I just saw. Yes, Hargrove. She's been here all along. That evening, as Wren tucked Griffin into bed, he looked up at her with serious eyes. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Will you teach me? Not to be a soldier or anything. Just so I can understand this part of you. Wren considered the request carefully. Some basics, perhaps. Self-defense fundamentals. Situational awareness. She paused. But Griffin, I left that world behind for good reasons. I know, Griffin said. But it's part of who you are. Part of who I am too. I just want to know my own mother. Wren's expression softened. That's fair. We'll start small. Griffin smiled, feeling a connection with his mother that had never existed before. So, he ventured, when you taught me to ride a bike, were you using some special Navy SEAL technique? Wren laughed, a genuine sound that filled the room. No, that was just regular mom stuff. Stumbling through parenthood like everyone else. The next morning at school, Griffin walked through the hallways with his head held higher. Whispers followed him, but they were different now, tinged with respect rather than the usual indifference. That's him. Griffin Hargrove. Did you see what his mom did? My dad was there. He said she moved so fast he had to watch his video in slow motion. I heard she was some kind of secret soldier. At lunch, Darius Reeves, captain of the wrestling team and someone who had barely acknowledged Griffin's existence before, dropped his tray at Griffin's table. So, Darius leaned forward. Is it true what they're saying about your mom? That she was like a female James Bond or something? Griffin picked at his food. She was in naval special warfare. That's all I know. Man, that's intense. Darius shook his head. You must have always known she was badass, right? Griffin looked up, surprised at how much honesty wanted to come out. Actually, I had no idea. All these years, I thought she was just, regular mom stuff. Darius stared at him incredulously. No way. Way, Griffin said. She never showed me any of that. Never talked about her service. Nothing. Why not? Griffin thought about his conversation with his mother the night before. Because she wanted me to have a normal childhood. To know her as just mom, not as some decorated war hero. Darius was quiet for a moment. That's actually pretty cool. My dad never stops talking about his police work. Gets old after a while. Griffin smiled. Yeah. I get that now. That afternoon, Wren received a phone call from Colonel Merrick. Commander Hargrove, that was quite a performance yesterday. It wasn't a performance, Colonel. It was a demonstration. Either way, the video has gone viral. Over 1 million views already. Wren felt a chill. That's unfortunate. I thought you should know. The community is aware now. If you need anything, any support, reach out. Understood. Thank you, Colonel. After hanging up, Wren sat at her kitchen table, processing the implications. For 12 years, she'd maintained her cover, lived quietly, raised her son away from the shadows of her past. Now, with one demonstration, that carefully constructed privacy was gone. But as she thought about Griffin's face when he looked at her that morning, pride replacing embarrassment, understanding replacing confusion, she realized something had changed. Not in a bad way. Just different. She'd spent years hiding who she was, convinced it was the only way to give Griffin a normal life. But maybe normal wasn't what he needed. Maybe he needed to see all of her, the mother and the warrior, the woman who could bake cookies and disarm attackers, the person who was both ordinary and extraordinary. When Griffin came home from school, he found his mother in the backyard. Ready for your first lesson? Wren asked. Griffin's eyes lit up. Really? Really? But we start with the basics. Proper stance, situational awareness, how to read a room. When do I get to learn the cool stuff? The disarming moves. Wren smiled. The basics are the cool stuff, Griffin. Everything else is just application. They spent the next hour in the backyard, Wren patiently teaching Griffin fundamental principles. How to stand, how to move, how to see threats before they materialized. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic. Just solid, practical skills. As the sun began to set, Griffin asked, Mom, do you miss it? The missions, the action. Wren considered the question carefully. I miss the people. The team. The sense of purpose. But I don't miss the cost. The things I had to do, the things I had to see. She looked at her son. This, right here with you, this is my mission now. And it's the one that matters most. Griffin hugged her, something he hadn't done in months. Thanks, Mom. For everything. That night, as Wren prepared dinner, she thought about the path that had led her here. From classified operations in hostile territories to suburban kitchens and school demonstrations. From lieutenant commander to just mom. Except she was never just anything. She was all of it, every experience, every choice, every mission shaping the person she'd become. The video would fade. The whispers would eventually die down. But the connection she'd forged with Griffin, the understanding they now shared, that would last. And in the end, that was the only operation that truly mattered. The one where she'd succeeded in being both warrior and mother, both the woman who'd saved hostages in foreign lands and the one who made sure her son did his homework and ate his vegetables. She'd hidden in plain sight for 12 years, and now she stood revealed. Not diminished by the exposure, but somehow more complete. The quiet mom who disarmed the instructor. The decorated operator who chose motherhood. The woman who proved that true strength never needs to announce itself. It simply is. If this story moved you, if you've ever known someone who carried extraordinary strength and quiet dignity, someone who never needed to brag because their actions spoke louder than words, share this video. Leave a comment telling their story. Say their name. Because here at Silent Legends, we believe the most powerful heroes are the ones who serve in silence, who hide in plain sight, who choose normalcy over recognition and still change the world in ways no one will ever fully know. Subscribe to this channel. Help us tell these stories. Help us remind the world that strength doesn't always look like what we expect. Sometimes it looks like a quiet mom in worn jeans, sitting alone on the highest bleacher, carrying secrets that could fill volumes but choosing instead to just be present for her son. Thank you for watching. This is Silent Legends. And we're just getting started. Disclaimer: this video is a fictional narrative created for entertainment purposes. While inspired by real values of military service, sacrifice, and strength, all characters and events are fictional.